And we are recording. Hello and welcome to the Max Revenue Show. I am your host, the mediocre producer, Trey Shields, along with the Zen Master of Commercial Insurance, Micah Salas. Micah, how are you this morning?
Full of peace, love, and joy.
I just
every time. Every time.
That shit just drives me crazy. But anyways, maybe I need a
know
little
your true identity. If you know your true identity, then that's all you'll be filled with.
Oh, dang. Did you peep on what I was creeping on YouTube?
I did not.
Okay, I thought you were making fun of me. I went down a what do they call that? Whatever. We'll talk about it later. It's human design. It's kind of a new age woo-woo thing. Not that I'm into it. I just found it interesting. But anyways, we won't. Nobody gives a rip about that. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. In this episode, we are going to talk about how to write 100K in revenue in the next 12 months. And by we, I mean Micah, because I too would like to write 100K in the next 12 months. And I did not last year. So I need to get back on the bandwagon, finish this year with a bang, and get to 100K. So Micah is going to be talking to me as he is to you as well. But before we jump into that, big shout out to the title sponsor of this show, Insurance Xdate. Shout out to Rob and the boys. We appreciate you. If you are a producer that is trying to grow your book of business with cold outbound and you work off of Xdates, then Insurance Xdate is an absolute no-brainer. What are you doing if you're not using it? Go book a demo with them today. Good people behind it, good product itself. Can't recommend it enough. All right. Link in the show notes for that. Now, Micah, please enlighten me and the audience how to write 100K in the next 12 months.
The best way is to call your network and to find the biggest prospect that's paying $1 million and close it.
Dang. All right, guys.
Rocket science. There you go. See y'all later. No, I wish it was that easy. Yeah, man. So I'll tell this story. I've told it before. When I was at prior agency, I think I'd been there like 3.5 years. We had a new producer starting. He was a former underwriter, and he popped over in my office and said, "Hey, man, I heard like I should ask you some questions. You've been pretty successful the last couple of years. Like, what are you doing?" And so I laid out what I had done and what I would recommend to him, and it was very simple. And he stuck to it, and he did it, and he produced 10,000 that year. And he's never missed, at least all the years I was there, I know he never missed 100. He's still in the industry. I think he's got, over $1 million book 8-9 years later. He would, I'm not going to pat my own back here, but he'd always occasionally just say thanks. And when I left, he's like, "Hey man, appreciate, your help and whatever." So the main thing I think that he did is he just stuck to what I told him to do, and he didn't get distracted or whatever. He was just really focused, and he did the clay shoots. He did some golf events here and there, of course, but he was really, he was just a hard worker, and he followed the plan. And when I worked also at Federated Insurance, they would always say, "Hey, follow the business plan," And for them, that was 10 drop-ins a day, 5 days a week, should lead to 60 quotes a year, blah, 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 and, all this other stuff. So I think it's just an underlying theme of you got to follow the plan and stay consistent, stay focused, especially, and it's harder now than I think it was probably even for sure 5 years ago, 10 years ago, with all the distractions that we have out there. So, what did I tell him? It's pretty straightforward, but I think there's let me back up for a second. There's two different things I would tell someone, depending if you have access to Insurance Xdate, shameless plug, or if you don't. Let's go down one path if you don't, because that's what I told this guy. We didn't have Xdate back in the day, so we didn't know when anyone expired, right? So you're going in blind. I said, hey man, build a list of 200 prospects in a specific niche, right? For him, it was construction because he was an underwriter in that space. Our agency was good at that. So it made a ton of sense. So he built out a list of 200 over his first week. I said, build that out over a week and then start calling them. You should start making calls basically by week 2, maybe 3. So that's what he started doing. And so and I said, every day you should be adding a little bit, maybe 3 to 5 prospects to your kind of funnel, right? Because you're going to burn through prospects. They're going to say, no, thank you. So you should always be adding maybe 5 to 10, let's just say. And call them every day, 40 calls a day. That's the magic number I told them. And I said, anytime you talk to someone and it's a decent conversation, put them on a follow-up later list. It's an Excel document where you just kind of keep track of your warm conversations and just put like, hey, the name and next step and Xdate. And then if you don't catch someone, always schedule a follow-up call, right? Use your CRM like this. So you make the call, you don't get them, set it for a day later, 2 days later, you should call them 2 to 3 times in a week. And then once you've gone through that week, set the follow-up call for the next, I told him Monday, I said, just put everything on like a Sunday or a Monday. And then when you come into that week, you have all your list of calls to make for that week. Rather than trying to put them like on like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just do them all on a Sunday. Cause then you get in there and it'll show overdue tasks, right? And so you have this master list of people to call. So that'll easily kind of, once you come in Monday, Tuesday, it'll help you get going. And then, that was like the main thing I told him is to just follow that plan. And and then from a phone script, he was like, well, what do you say? And so he wasn't very confident on the phones. And at that point I was just using a really basic script. And so my thing to him, I said, hey man, until you get better, just don't try to lead with all these prolific claims or statements. Just call people like this. Just introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Micah with XYZ company name. Just wanted to see, would you ever be open to chatting about your business insurance? I'm not looking to quote, just wanted to talk about doing some due diligence. And that was really the method that he used. And for him, it worked well because he was, like I said, not the most eloquent speaker, not like a killer on the phones. And he would just kind of get conversations going. I think that aw shucks, maybe aura would wear off on people, and it worked well. So anyways, I would say that the main way to write it is stay consistent, follow the plan from an activity standpoint. The other thing he did really well is, when he get opportunities, he was very involved in them. So on the back end, so that's the front end, right? Filling the funnel, building your leads, filling the funnel, sticking to that plan. But then you start to get deals in the works. Then what do you do? Remember, we were basically on a BOR only approach, or primarily BOR. And so he followed that path, right? You come out there, you present, here's why we should be hired. You do your due diligence, you come out, you lay out why they should hire you. And then hopefully you get hired. And so that was the model that he had followed. I would say from what I observed, he was also very involved. Like once he got a deal in, he would talk with marketing. Hey, would you find this? Okay, what are the issues here? And he's just involved, right? He took ownership. So yeah, I mean, that's what I would say. Now, if you have Xdate, so that was if you don't have Xdate, everything would stay the same. The only difference, in my opinion, would be, I don't even know if you need a list of 200. I don't even work off lists really anymore. I just use Xdate and I work out like 5 months, right? And I find that to be the magic number, because if you go further out, you're going to get people who are like, no, we just renewed. And you're still going to get that at 5 months, even 6 months. But if you go closer, you're starting to you start to get into this process. By the time you catch people, you're chasing. And so I just had this happen to me, kind of like, I was like chasing a bunch of October deals here in July, like early October, September even. I was like, what am I doing? And now the last week or so, my meetings have been really solid. I've had really good conversations. I realized I'm starting to call, they're all with December X dates, right? 12/1 through 1/1. That's what I'm calling here in July. So I knew that, that's what I've coached people on doing. It just, you kind of sometimes lose sight of where you're at and you get caught up in the weeds and whatever happens. So yeah, that's the biggest difference I would say. So if you have Xdate or you have access to Xdates, or use them strategically. And I don't think you necessarily need to build a list, because if you go to Insurance Xdate, you just go search 12/1 through 1/1, let's just say, for whatever you can set the parameters you want to go, like 150 miles from your zip code. You can go by industry, premium size, at least in my state. And now I just use that as my working kind of list, right, for that month. So I don't need to go find a list of 200 prospects. And now the one other thing, if you want to have like a top 10 or 15 list, like a dream account list, by all means go for that. I've just never done that. It's just something I've never done, and maybe I should, but I'm not against that. It's just all my accounts that I call, the floors in my mind at 15K of revenue, so they're all nice accounts, and some of those are 75 to 100 in revenue. So I just don't know where they're going to all land that fall within those X dates that I'm working on. So
yeah, in Louisiana, they don't have premium amount on there. So there's a little bit more of a qualifying thing. So when I'm talking about Xdate, when I'm on there, I have to do a little bit more. So I might go to the website. I might actually pull up the picture of the business on the Google map, that the link it gives you, do the Google search. And I can usually tell, like if I'm chasing construction, I can kind of look at the website and look at the building, like on a Google map, and have a pretty good idea. Now if it's like an excavation contractor and I click on the map and it sends me to the middle of nowhere, then I can't really tell. But like if I go to the website and I see that they've got, a bunch of big equipment, then I'm like, oh, okay, these guys are probably big enough, right? So there's a little more qualifying that I have to do, but I still, and that's just state by state, but can't recommend it enough. One thing I wanted to touch on, go back a little bit, is the 40 calls. Let's say I just absolutely refuse, not me, but whoever, refuse to make calls. And I'd rather do drop-ins. Maybe I'm the real gregarious, outgoing type, and I want to do that. What's your take on that? Do you think there's a difference between 40 calls and 10 drop-ins? What would you recommend on the drop-in side of things?
Yeah, I got away from doing drop-ins myself when I left Federated. I did some in Houston when I was at my prior agency, but quickly kind of realized it was for me, it was inefficient. But I know people who've done extremely well. I mean, we did an episode on this, I think 2-3 months ago, that was pretty highly viewed. And I work with a guy who's killed it doing drop-ins. So I would say pick either one, right? And I've incorporated more drops. It's to me, I think it maybe depends on your territory a little bit. It depends how much you want to drive. I think if you go out to rural areas, I think you can have more success on drop-ins actually than metro areas. I think metro people are just more inundated, more busy. So if you want to go drive 2 hours a day, 1 hour out, hour back maybe, or something, like, by all means. I mean, I'm not discouraging you from doing that. It's not something so even when I've incorporated, it's like I get back from those days and I'm like, man, I still got all these client emails and other things I got to go through, right? And so but if you're going to go the drop-in route, what I've seen work really, really well is like what my colleague had done. He maps out his whole week. You got your zones, so you're not driving all over the place in random directions, but you got to be very organized. And he does work out. I know from sure he does use the Xdates as well. So he's working out that 4 or 5 months, but he creates more of a list of about 100 per month. So he might say, like, maybe there's 100 in September, or maybe there's 100 that are 5 and 6 months out. And so he'll be like, okay, those are all my kind of drop-in window that he has to hit up, over the next 2 weeks, right? 2-3 weeks. So if you have 100 you're trying to hit over a 2-week span, you kind of know your course, right? It's like, okay, I got these 100 I have to hit. This is where they're all located. And then you can course out like the most efficient route. And okay, this day I'm going to go for 10, 10, 10. You break that out into 2 weeks. There's 100, right? At 10 drops a day, 5 days a week. That's 50 a week, 100 for every 2 weeks. So yeah, no, that certainly works. And he doesn't drop in and leave like crazy leave behinds or anything. He just kind of goes in, shakes her hand, tells them his little background. He worked in construction. I think his dad was a contractor. And so he's just prepared to kind of go in there and make some small talk. And then he really likes to educate him on like one of his favorite leave behinds is kind of how the insurance game works, right? Where we've all seen this picture. I think we put it in our course too, but it's like the whole market mayhem picture where you got, one agent going to 3 markets versus 2 different agents going to 3 markets. And he likes to just go through that. He'll bring it in and maybe show it to them and be, hey, I'm not looking to quote. I think that's a silly way to buy insurance. Here's what other people are doing. Could I come back and maybe show you like what it would look like to work with us, right? And then his model, I know he gets all the policies before the first meeting. So his first meeting is almost in person, right? If he shakes their hand, talks to them, that's kind of his first meeting. And then when he comes back, he's hopefully already reviewed their policies and he's coming back and making kind of a case of why they should hire him. And
you're doing basically the same thing on the phone.
Correct. Yep.
Getting in the door. Yeah. Sometimes that first call leads to a quote unquote first meeting where you get into the distribution and how the game works and all that. Other times it doesn't. You have to set up that call. Then you're getting policies. Then you're going in and doing your research meeting or whatever. So the other thing are 2 more things I want to touch on. Let's talk about networking, referrals, that whole gig. I feel like a lot of our audience is newer producers. And so the whole networking thing comes into play because, their principal or the other guys in their office telling them to get out there and join the chamber and go be the president of the local little league and do all that stuff. Are you against that? Are you for it? Is it you agnostic? I mean, it's good to do, but long to reap the rewards. What's your take on the networking? And I think the referrals come as a result of that. Either those people choose to work with you or they refer you into other places. You can kind of backdoor your way in. What's your take on the networking thing?
I'm not opposed at all to it. I mean, I think if you want to be a super producer, you should do both, run both parallel, like, hey, the cold calling deal, and then, at nighttime or, lunches, nighttime, do your happy hours, join your associations, go to those. I would pick 1 or 2 to get super involved in, and then, look for events in your city, right? I was kind of doing that in my upper 20s. I mean, I never got anything out of it, but personally, I mean, but that's where I think you'd be better served just getting involved in 1 or 2, niche association type things. And then just trying to do coffees and stuff with guys and lunches that you maybe, CPAs, bankers, like that's what I would do. I just don't really love like the whole nighttime happy hour, that kind of stuff, especially since having kids. When I was in my 20s, I still didn't even love it, but it was like I could do it more. I just don't want that to do that. So I would just tell you, like, don't feel like you have to do that. But if you, yeah, sure. I mean, it makes sense, right? It's kind of just like with cold calling. I mean, if you make 100 calls a day versus 40, you're probably going to have better success long term. I mean, if you track your numbers over 6 months and every day you made 100 calls versus every day you made 40, you're going to have more conversations. You're going to have more meetings. Of course, there's kind of like that. Do you want to, can you sustain that? Do you want to burn yourself out? And so you got to just ask yourself that question. But I like the 40 calls a day. I like because then it frees up free time to do things like the networking and learning and all that other stuff, client issues. So no, I'm not opposed to it at all. I mean, I would say if you're younger, especially, yeah, get involved in something, because then hopefully by the time you have kids, you're maybe more involved already and you got that network built out, and then it's easier just to do lunches, more of a sniper approach, like, hey, lunches, coffees, during your work, it breaks up your work week a little bit.
100%.
Yeah.
When we're sharing stuff online, it's easy to get caught in the either or thing, the binary thinking, but in reality, it's really both, especially if you're a new producer and you don't have really a big family yet, then you have time to do both. Talking about the people thing, what I've kind of realized about myself lately, is I've always known this part, that I don't like the social stuff, like the associations, and then the happy hours and all that. I don't like that. It makes me very uncomfortable. It feels super fake to me.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do like, or I don't mind doing, that I should start doing, which is a way for me to open up that referral and networking thing, is I have no issue doing the one-on-one thing. So like, I'll call somebody, CPA or whatever, and say, hey, let's go grab coffee. I have no problem doing that. I enjoy the one-on-one. I get energy from the one-on-one. It's the me and the many that I just find absolutely draining and exhausting and fake. I don't know why that is. That's just how I operate. That's how I'm wired. But I kind of uncovered that. I was like, you know what? I actually like doing the one-on-one thing. I have no issue with that. It's the one-to-many that I don't jive with.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you, man. I'm the same way. Like, and that's where, if you want to talk about LinkedIn too, and like, hey, should you be posting on LinkedIn or be relevant on there? For me, I think it hasn't hurt. It hasn't pulled away. If anything, I would say it's helped. A couple times a year, I get referrals from other producers across the country. Some of them shake out. Most of them don't,
I've gotten more referrals from other producers using LinkedIn than I have actually inbound.
Yeah. Same here. I got a guy in Arizona that reached out on this little laundry, like $60K in premium, like a laundry cleaner service thing. I had a couple other deals like that have popped in from other brokers. Just like, hey, I see your stuff. I feel like I want to refer my guy to somebody. I think you can help out. So yeah, I mean, so like that's where I would use LinkedIn more, like staying relevant. And if you're just a producer, right? I'm not talking about as like an agency principal. Some opportunities to connect with other young professionals, and like makes it a lot easier than back in like 2015 when no one was on there, 2010s. It's like you had to go to those networking events to find the CPAs, to find the bankers. Now I think you could use LinkedIn and just like start connecting with them on there, and then just say, hey man, let's grab a lunch, and it's like I think you want to find a couple to kind of get in deep with. You don't want to be, if you have 30 CPAs you're connected with, maybe that's great for you, but that kind of like, what are you going to give those guys in return? If you're trying to give them referrals and stuff like that back, like that's where it's like, if you want a true referral partner, I think you want to probably keep that more limited pool of like people.
Yeah, dude, that's such a good point. I've totally forgotten about that. I was thinking about that the other day. When I first got into this, I tried to break into the real estate space. And so I started, sending out and cold calling like different people in the industry adjacent. And like 4 of them literally all said the same thing. They're like, oh, you met with Jeff or you met with Cindy last week? Because it would come up in conversation. And they're like, well, I mean, no offense. Why am I here? Like, you gonna just, what I mean? It's like, what, are you just gonna divvy up leads? And maybe I should have just not told them, like, oh, Jeff with so and so, I met with them last week. Maybe I was just stupid on my part. But it's like, if you have 20 CPAs and I'm a CPA, I'm like, dude, why am I giving you shit? You're splitting up your stuff 20 different ways. So maybe be judicious about that. Just a thought. I think a lot of people don't think about that. They just think, oh, the more people I get in my whatever, that's like creates a bigger surface area, it's going to bring more to me. But I think it's got to be a little bit more strategic. And then also, like, let's say the guy you get in good with, let's say he's not very good at it or he doesn't have a big client base. Well, now you're kind of pot committed. Meanwhile, you make inroads with John over here. What are you going to fire your first guy? And, whatever. Anyways, I want to get into all that.
Well, and that's why you want to cast a little bit of a wider net to start, right? Like you don't want to go pot committed to one CPA. It's like, hey, meet a couple, right? And then start to see who you jive with, who you like to work with, who you want to even refer your clients to. That's part of it as well. Same with lawyers and, pick your 4 or 5 kind of professional industries you want to partner with, collaborate with.
All right. So we have build a product. We have work out 150 from Xdates if you can. If you don't, then there's another layer of qualifying that's got to be done through calling and getting information. And then by all means, run the warm referrals and the networking. You can do both, especially if you're a newer producer. So all 4. And then when it comes to what do you have to say as far as like quoting versus BOR? Let's talk about, okay, we get the at-bat, we get the meeting. Let's do a quick overview of the playbook real quick. Obviously, all the deets will be in the producer playbook link in the show notes. But if you had to give us a quick 5-minute run through, high level, what does that look like?
Oh, I got distracted right there at the last 20 seconds when you said, what did you say? A high 5-minute?
You son of a bitch.
I said,
I
tell you what I got
walked
distracted
through
by.
everything we did. And I said, now let's get down to actually getting it to the finish line. I said, so let's do a quick high level overview of the BOR versus quoting. How do we get to the finish line? Which one do we do? How do we decide which one, if it's worth it? And then what does that like presenting look like? Let's do a quick overview.
And I did talk about this. I think your kid was distracting you during that moment. So
oh, damn it. We're both guilty. All right.
It wasn't in
we
depth.
Both during the call, you can't see this, but during the call, we both hit pause or like we'll leave the screen while the other one's talking because either like the kid's yelling in the background or someone has to go to the bathroom. It's hilarious. If you actually if we ever put up a twin screen, people will be like, they're talking to themselves half the time.
Yeah, that's why we don't do twin screens. Yeah. Okay. So just to repeat, I kind of said the guy that I had mentored a little bit, he won most of his deals on BOR. Like he gave that pitch. That was like, hey, hire me. Let me get all the policies. Let me do my due diligence. Let me come back, present it to you, and then hire us or don't hire us. Right. So that was what he did. So I would say that should still be everyone's play. I mean, that's what I would do in my first 12 months is, hey man, let me just do some due diligence. Let me come back, see kind of what the best course of action is. Maybe I recommend you hiring me. That usually is what I recommend, but sometimes it's, hey, maybe you love your agent and we have a market they don't have. And so that's another path. Or maybe it's just, I walk away and just confirm you're in a good spot, and it just depends on what I find in the due diligence, what we talk about in between now and then, and that will depend where we go, So I think that's the course of action I've taken. I know a lot of people that have kind of similar paths. Like, like BORs certainly do make sense in a lot of situations, but not always. So you don't have to be super dogmatic about it in that first meeting. Kind of feel the prospect out, get what their thought is, because some people are like, oh yeah, that makes you explain how insurance works and why they should hire one agent, and some buyers are like, yep, that makes so much sense, right? And you don't even have to worry about like talking about like quoting or not, or any other paths, right? Or maybe you kind of start talking about like, well, I'm not signing an AOR immediately. And like, okay, well, hey, I'm not saying that that's the best course of action. It can be a lot of times, but maybe it's not. If you love your agent, you're happy with your service. So I'm not one of those guys who's going to come out here and slam it down your throat either. I'm not going to come out and twist your arm. So you got to be kind of a chameleon a little bit, I think, willing to adapt. That's what I would recommend.
So is this a fair recap? We always lead with due diligence. Due diligence is the tip of the spear, right? And then once that gets us in the door, then based off of our interaction with them, what our, kind of gut instinct questions back and forth, then we decide if the broker record is the right play or if the quoting is the right play, we just kind of go from there. So I think, at least for me, conceptualizing it, due diligence is always the tip of the spear. We don't have to make a decision on the other stuff. Let's just get in the door and see if they actually need help first and what the situation looks like.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. That's good recap.
All right. Let's end this puppy. I've got to take the Black Mamba to the dealership because my engine is overheating and I don't know why. It is 105 degrees in New Orleans, and so I'm sure that doesn't help, but something is going on. So I got to get that puppy to the dealership. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this thing up?
No, other than if you're still listening, I just did a live cold call that we're going to put up, I think, today or tomorrow. So actually, by the time you're listening to this, it'll probably be up there. So if you go check out our YouTube channel, I have a live cold call, and I've done other ones in the past, but this was a pretty cool one I caught. And I'll just leave it at that. It's a good, show some good openers and how to kind of navigate working with multiple people. So.
Did you get hit with an objection, overcome it, and book a meeting?
Yes, I did.
Maybe. Maybe. Investors, possibly you. You don't know what movie that is, do you?
Goldfinger? I don't know. Austin Powers.
Brothers. Investors, possibly you. All right. Let's wrap it up there. We appreciate you listening. If you want to go further down the rabbit hole and get the deets on everything that Micah talked about, writing 100K, I basically backed him into a corner and made him get in front of a camera and put it all on video. And it's all wrapped up inside a $197 little video course called the Producer Playbook. So go check that out. Also, link to the Max Revenue Letter, our weekly newsletter where we give pretty much all of this away in written form. So you can just go read all the back issues if you want. And that's free. And then also link to Insurance Xdate as well. Love those guys. Can't recommend the product enough. Go check it out. And with that, we'll bid you adieu. Micah, appreciate everything. Catch you on the next one.
Adios.